Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you're tuning in. We are Slava and Jonathan, bringing you the Side Quest podcast, where we talk about character development, stories, and all things that are world building. And we occasionally take side quests, because, frankly, that's how conversations work. Just as a reminder, this whole show is spoiler heavy. So sit back, tune in, and join us on this episode of Side Quest.
Mr. Sandman, tell me a dream. Tell me those things you don't seem. I can't remember the song.
I'll tell you what I'm dreaming of. I'm dreaming of the dark side, Jonathan.
I'm dreaming of a dog named Fido Dogstievsky.
Yes. That was a literal dream you had, right?
I did.
Excellent.
I woke up and then, wow. Well, I still woke up. I'm all
Are you
straight.
woke?
I am now, sort of. I woke up and literally, instead of sending my girlfriend a good morning, I sent her, what if a dog was named Fido Dogstievsky? And then
So you send me and your girlfriend good morning texts? Because I got the same text from you every day. And I was surprised it was a dog related text this morning.
Because it's a dream and I needed to share it with somebody, and we were about to jump on the podcast 30 minutes ago, but I was a little late. So, yes, you, on Saturdays, you sit in the girlfriend category.
All right. I guess I'm honored or something.
Well, the rule of two, so one has power and
enough.
the other one's trying to get it back.
Yeah.
I'll let you decide who's who in this relationship.
It's pretty much a toss up.
It's like toss the
We're
pickle.
both Githany.
Oh.
We just don't know it.
Oh, okay. Well, fine. So we're changing up the format instead of just asking the same dumb question every week of how was your week? Because, we both work in high, fast-paced industries. So, what is something enjoyable that happened to you this week?
Huh. Oh. Something enjoyable. It's going to be food related. I went to a
We're
Lebanese...
all very surprised.
Yep.
Please continue.
I went to a Lebanese restaurant yesterday, and I tried a deep-fried, full-fish, deep-fried bronzini. And you've seen some of the bronzinis that I make on the grill.
Yep.
Literally, you get a bronzini. It's a white fish. You stuff it with rosemary, thyme, lemon, garlic, tie it up, 7 minutes inside on the grill. Boom, rice, veggies. These folks, this Lebanese restaurant, they deep-fried it and on a bed of rice and some French fries. Anyway, it was mind-blowingly delicious.
So it was fried
I didn't expect
zini.
it to be good. I mean, I expected it to be good. I didn't expect it to be this good. And just some of the fish where the skin flaked off and the actual fish meat was deep fried a little bit longer than maybe it should have been. It became like brown and crispy on some parts, and those turned out very delicious. Again, I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, this might be good. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of overdone, because fish is easily overdone. But I ate everything but the bones and the head, man. It was really good. That was a highlight. I can't think of anything else because everything else was work or driving or
Didn't you learn how to podcast this week? In
I'm
a meeting?
sorry?
Didn't you learn how to podcast? Someone at work did a meeting for you, and you learned all about the things that are podcast related.
Yeah, a colleague for our foundation day, as it's called. It's pretty much a team building and professional development day. She went through the presentation based on her class notes from a class she's taken on podcasting.
Mm-hmm. Did you bring back the tips? You haven't corrected me yet, so,
No, she gave a couple of tips for people starting the podcast. This podcast was featured in her presentation, so we might get some listeners from my work. I think at least two people would will listen, just based on their reactions. And there's no slight against those who won't listen or those who won't listen to more than one episode, but a couple of people
we should buy them
Bluetooth
interest. Speakers and one-play episodes on like portable USB drives that go to the Bluetooth speakers, and then hide them in their cars for the people who are not going to listen. And then they have and turn it on as they're leaving. And then just the full category or full catalog. Yeah. Because,
I'm down with it. What's a little breaking and entering to get a
what's a
growing
little
audience?
B&E on the weekends or the weekdays? What's a little B&E on the weekdays? Don't at me in the comments unless I'm going to B&E your house. Never mind. Never mind.
So I guess you could say that was a decent thing that happened. We got a shout out to about 30 people.
We're making waves.
Yeah, and listen, like we've said this to each other and on the podcast, outside of asking our audience to share and like and subscribe and all the other good stuff that we are supposed to ask them, I haven't been making announcements that I run a podcast with you or with anybody to no more than the people that we asked in the beginning, the beta listeners, and then twice at work, it just came up naturally where I don't know how to describe it, but it came up, and this was one of those times where this woman knows that I run a podcast because the three of us all have podcasts, and we've connected over that. And so now she tells other people about it. But other than that,
nice.
I haven't told anybody.
Well, yeah.
Some of my friends don't know. I'm meeting with a friend after this, and he doesn't know. And I'm not going to tell him that because I'm trying to hide it from him, but it just doesn't matter.
Right. Well, part of this is, having some fun, reading some books, chit-chatting about it. And then part of it is kind of an experiment because we're both in marketing. And I haven't grown anything organically in a while for myself. So it's just like, well, what can we do? Well, we can have a podcast, chit-chat every week, and we can see if we can grow it organically, which is what we're doing. So,
yep.
If people like the content, they'll share it. If they don't, they won't. And that's that. We'll adjust accordingly, and we'll move on. And then we'll take over the world.
I like it.
Book talk.
Which is a nice segue into the path of destruction. Taking over the world.
Okay, yeah. You're not going to ask me how my week was. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit. Just rewind those reels. How was your week? Well, no, forget that. We're not doing that.
Right, but you didn't ask me the question. You didn't reiterate the question to me.
Right.
People.
What was the highlight of your week?
I'm going to side quest on this real quick because people do this all the time. People will answer the question and then they won't hand the question back to you. And I'm just thinking, where is society today? How can we just not have a basic conversation? This is not a slight to you. This is just you'll be out and about in the world. You'll be having a conversation. You go, oh, da, 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 da. And it might even be people that you're acquainted with or friends. And then they won't ask you the same question back. Now, they don't have to, but that's the basics of conversation. That's table stakes. So it's just they don't realize that they haven't gotten the same information from you, and maybe they don't care. But I have a hard time believing that 97% of people don't actually care, because if they're your friends, they do care, but they just haven't asked. And so my oral presentation here is that all people are blind, lazy, and selfish. That's my assessment.
Excellent. So all people are the Sith.
Yeah.
Except for the lazy part, because the Sith are hardly lazy.
Yeah, they work hard. Anyway,
so what's the highlight of your week,
A
Jonathan?
highlight of my week, because I have to interject myself here, apparently. That one is a slight against you. I just want to clarify which ones are and aren't, so that you know. And the audience knows.
Because I'm confused.
Yeah. Good. Wait. So I've been smart housing my house, replacing outlets and switches, and I just bought a motion sensor to address the lights on and lights off that are on the lamps that are on switches. Or
everything but a heater.
We're not there yet. It's on the to-do list though, actually. So I can control everything from my phone and just slowly automating my house, and it's pretty awesome. All of my switches and outlets and stuff. I'm showing Slava a quick look at my thing here. But
very cool.
That has been fun. It's been a fun kind of experiment because I do so much digital work every day that I want to do something with my hands, but I also really love tech. So I was on one smart home system, didn't really work out as efficiently as I wanted, and I've switched to this system, which is more costly, but it actually works. So that's
you get what you pay for.
You do. And then another thing that's happened in the last week is I got to see a buddy of mine who's a counselor that I don't get to see a whole lot. So that was a great time. It was a real good time. So And then I had this dream about Fido Dostoevsky. I realize that this doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but I almost never remember dreams because I'll wake up and it's like I just blacked out and then I'm up again and I didn't have a dream. And so when I have a dream, I enjoy it. You know, this one was also a fun dream and not a nightmare. Not that those happen very often, but they have happened in the past where you go, man, I think I'm having a stress dream. So.
Yeah, so are you able to control your actions in your dreams? Do you have lucid dreams?
No.
Yeah, I have very, very vivid, auditory, visually mesmerizing at times, like very, for lack of a better term, 4K kind of dreams. I am able to control the dreams, like even like in my head, as the character in my dream, I'm able to think thoughts and then vocalize them, speak them, and I'm able to make, at least to me, it appears that I'm making decisions because I'm aware that I'm dreaming. A lot of times that
Weird.
I know I'm in a dream. And they're all, even since I was a kid, they were always vivid. They were always out there. It was never like, oh, I have a dream that I'm on a plane to, I don't know, Hawaii. And then I get off the plane and I'm like walking around and wow, I get a picturesque dream of Hawaii. It's never simple. And most dreams aren't like that at all. Most dreams are a little weird. Mine are a lot of weird. Like the dial set to 12. I'm not going to share my dreams here because it's not in the podcast, but they're, I'll share one. You know what? I'll share one. When I was a kid, this was a recurring dream. This is a really weird dream. I'm running from my house up a hill that's a little wooded, and I'm struggling, I'm sweating, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. And I get on top of the hill, and then there's the sidewalk, and across the street is the bus stop. And the school bus is just pulling back the stop arm. So the guy has picked up the kids and about to pull away, and I'm waving my arms, screaming, hey, I'm here. So he stops the bus, opens his little side window, the school bus has, takes out an AK-47 and kills me. Then I wake up. That was a recurring dream when I was like 11 years old. And they're all like that. I mean, I don't die in all of them, but they're all just very vivid.
So they're absurd. They're not weird, because I would consider a weird dream to be like Salvador Dali dreams.
I've had stuff like that too.
But what you've just described, I would consider more an absurdist dream. If we can use conversational, or if we can use the philosophical rhetoric.
Yeah, fair.
Interesting. I have had some dreams that end up coming true, not play by play, but the essence of them comes true. So prophetic dreams happen sometimes, which is why I always try to take note of my dreams, because sometimes they're that, but sometimes they're just stress dreams. So it's interesting.
Well, now that you remember this one, if you meet a talking dog,
Fido Dostoevsky.
And if he tells you a story that sends you into existential dread, then there you go.
There we go. I don't think anybody who dreams regularly doesn't understand those of us who don't dream regularly.
Yeah, I have a dream every night.
Yeah, I'm like, I know science says that we dream every night, but I don't. You know, and it's possible that I do, and it just like, it literally blacks out before I wake up. That's certainly a possibility, but yeah, I think it's curious, because I think it'd be fun to lucid dream. I would be having a lot of fun with Bridge 4 and work out all of my stresses there, but that's not the case. So, non sequitur over to Mr. Darth Bane. Now that I've gotten to share
Lord Bane, or
right.
Darth Bane,
Dark Lord Bane.
Dark Lord Bane.
Because we don't use those titles here.
Yep. That's antiquated when the Force wasn't as strong, or so they say.
Yes. All right, so where'd we leave off? We left off, you had a busy week, weren't able to fit all 15. So the book is like roughly 30 chapters, and we were going to do 15 on the first episode, and I wrapped up the book, actually wrapped up 2 books, and then some extra chapters. I just want to reiterate that, Slava, that I was able to outdo you.
Because you listen at 2.75 speed or whatever you said. So, yes. If I was Rain Man, I would also be able to to listen to books. Although I did listen to finish in time, I did listen to it at 1.85 speed, and
it's doable, right?
It's doable.
Yeah.
Except Khan sounded like what's that actress? I sent you a text right away.
You texted me about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever. Look it up. But you look at the text again. But it's and people. So I'm sure I've mentioned this before. People tell me, "Oh, well, audiobooks aren't my thing. I can't focus." Blah blah blah. And I go, "Hold up. You just spent 12 years, and if you went to college, an additional 4, possibly 6, so 18 years, up to 18 years, sitting in a classroom listening to someone badger at you from the front, and you were expected to retain that information. You 100% can listen to something and retain the information. You don't want to, and that's a different thing, and that's fine. Not everybody has to audiobook. We're all very busy, though, and I think that it's utterly important to continue learning. So, this is just a fun podcast, right? But continue reading. I use audiobooks for everything. I use it for self-help. I I'd call it self-development because I don't consider it self-help because I hold my values differently than that because I don't want to be a victim in my life. But yeah, I think that people can audiobook, and I've been encouraging my girlfriend to do it because there's just too much information. Like for the state of where we're at versus where we want to go as people, you've got to continue to gain the right information. And you can do that research, or you can do the research, find 3 or 4 books, and then just devour them via audiobook, and then continue moving on with your life. And if you retain 65% of it, that's about as much as you'd probably retain from standing in a class or sitting in a classroom, watching someone stand in front of you and badger at you with whatever information they're telling you. So, it's equivalent.
Yeah, no, I've as a kid I devoured audiobooks, so I'm very comfortable with them. And it was Carol Channing. Carol Channing, the actress. Yeah. And if you know, you know. So Khan at 1.85 speed sounds like Carol Channing.
Nice. One of my first audiobooks, not like radio dramas, was The Hobbit.
Okay. Yep. This is going to sound a little weird, maybe to some people. My first audiobook, I think, was a Tom Clancy novel. As a kid, because I liked Tom Clancy. I like spy. As a kid, I liked spy movies. And then I watched the Red October, and I realized, hey, this was actually a book. And I didn't listen to the Red October in audiobook. I read, I think, The Clear and Present Danger, or something like that. It was one of the long ones. I listened to that one, Tom Clancy, and then I listened to a bunch of Stephen King stuff, and I think I did maybe The Lord of the Rings on audiobook, and a bunch of them. I don't remember now. And then in high school, I kind of dropped off from a lot of reading and audiobooking, and then picked it back up after high school.
So The Hunt for Red October, a couple things about that. I actually went to film school, and the film school I went to, the guy who started it, Jerry Sherlock, was an executive producer on The Hunt for Red October. It's the only film he's ever made, which I thought was interesting, but I still paid him to go to film school.
Okay.
And then Alec Baldwin
shot him.
Okay, I was going to get to that because I haven't followed up the updates. For those who don't know, Alec Baldwin was on a film set and the weapons were not properly cared for. He was not just an actor, he was also a producer on there, and he ended up actually shooting someone to death on this film set. And the latest update, at least from this first article that I clicked, is that they have reduced, he's still being charged with manslaughter, category 1, which I think is like accidental. Maybe it's not. But they've reduced it where he won't have a possible 5 years imprisonment as well, which is interesting. So we don't have to side quest on that.
Now, for those four listeners who do not know, that Alec Baldwin accidentally shot somebody on a film set.
Yeah.
That I just made fun of.
You did. And it's not a dream that you get to control where they're shooting an AK at the local actors.
Yeah, I was killed. In that dream, I was killed. So
you could be a Sith Lord.
I after reading Bane's rise to something.
Sithdom?
Yeah.
Sithdom.
It was interesting, just a quick note on that, and you can continue because let you finish. The book made it interesting to read about the dark side. Not that I'm like, oh, wow, it humanized the Sith. That's not what I'm saying. But I was like, oh, okay, I get it. This is kind of interesting take. It wasn't
It gives
too heavy
context
on
for
Jedi.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the things that we always vote people in the Oscars is, excellent acting as the bad guy. Because I think deep down we all understand that even if you're an evil human, someone who's decided to, quote unquote, become a monster, and the easy pick out is a Mao, a Hitler, some sort of Saddam Hussein was who I was thinking of, but that's only because I don't know as much about Castro. But yeah,
commie dictators are commie dictators, man.
That's fair. I did read the Dictator's Handbook to prepare, which is honestly kind of a fun book because it's really a basic framework. You have your in crowds and your out crowds, and you keep your in crowds happy, but you don't give them too much power. But then they also help you stay empowered because one of those in crowds needs to be the military. That's the book in 4 sentences. But it humanizes them in a way, and it gives you understanding. And humanizes, there's probably a better way to say it, but humanizes is how I'll say it anyway, where you gain understanding. I don't want to say empathy, but understanding of where they're coming from and why, even though you cannot agree with it. Because the whole book, and just like you pointed out, the whole book is about the Sith. And so they're the hero, if you will, in this book.
Right.
So super interesting on that.
Yeah, you get their POV more than anything else. Even when you get Jedi POVs, they're not as intricate, I'll say, as the POV of the Sith, the 2 Sith that you really get a lot of time with, which is Bane and what's her name, Githany.
Yep. All right, so let's quick run on the plot again. So Bane gets rescued from his mining camp. He finds his way to get an invitation over to the Sith School of Darkness.
He first becomes a sergeant in the Sith army.
Yes.
Then he disobeys an order, and he's correct in disobeying that order. And then he gets pulled into the school. He excels at the school. Then he kills somebody at the school too, or no? He almost kills somebody.
Yeah, so he excels. No. He killed him. He excels. He duels someone, and then kills them, and then has this moment of conscience, where he's like, man, I don't know if I should have killed that person. Those are the rules. And then he gets like kind of a slap on the wrist because the school, although it's alluded to, I don't see it done in the plot at all, where the students are encouraged to get a leg up on their enemies without getting caught. Which, I mean, if you're teaching a school for espionage, that makes sense. It was kind of alluded to, but never done, unless I missed something.
I don't think you missed anything.
That would have been a fun thing to add, right? Like, it was talked about, but it became just kind of like world setting rather than a piece of the story.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So, and then after he killed the person, they're like, no, it's fine. Kind of slap on the wrist. And then, remind me of the transition that happens where they, like, excommunicate him.
Well, he loses a duel to somebody who's stronger than him.
Yeah.
And he gets his ass beat. Like,
Siggity
broken bones.
Bill. Whatever that guy's name is.
Broken legs, yeah. And then he becomes kind of the pariah of the school, and he begs his former master to teach him in private, and then Githany, trying to use him for her own machinations, begins to teach him too, and by being taught by both of them, he regains his sensitivity to the Force, goes beyond both of them, surpasses both of them.
The masters.
And realizes that Githany is out for herself and also uses her for his efforts or his goals.
It's almost a little like the Joker and Harley Quinn. Not entirely, but a little bit.
A little bit.
It's got the flavor of it.
Definitely a slight flavor of it. Although Harley Quinn is definitely in love with the Joker and doesn't try to poison him.
Don't pull it apart. I mean, I said a flavor. I didn't say exact. It's a flavor.
Well, you know me. I pull things apart like Nambalat and crabs.
There it is. He should be at the Sith Academy.
Dude, yeah,
he'd
no
fit
kidding.
right in. He wouldn't be very well ranked, but he'd fit right in.
No, he'd be one of the minions that, run into a Jedi.
He'd be part of the Sith army, but not at the Sith Academy.
Right. Absolutely.
One of the things Bane does, though, is he spends a lot of time in the archives. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I like that. In addition to all his stuff. Before his fall, after his so-called fall, because he gets his butt beat by this guy, but he comes back pretty quickly. Prior to that and after that and during that, he spends a lot of time in the academy learning the old ways of the Dark Force, like learning from the old masters, Dark Lords, and realizes that the new Brotherhood has been corrupted because everybody's kind of equal, and it really dilutes the power where there should only be one or two. He later says two to rule them all, one with the centralized power and the second one to kind of always desire that power. So like an apprentice.
Yeah.
I like that. It makes the story interesting. It's not just this kid who gets rescued from the mines, has the Force, and then just goes around excelling at everything all the time. So he has to learn. He has to take a different approach than the rest of the folks to set him on a different path. And that opens him to do the things that Drew K, writes how he writes a story for Bane.
What do you think about the fact that, well, so I guess I want to pause. I have found that I really enjoy when books drive the characters back to the archives. Kvothe goes to the archives to try to gain knowledge. Bane goes to the archives to try to gain knowledge. Corran kind of does in Arcane Ascension. But this idea of, and Lyndon definitely does in Unsold and the Cradle series, he's always looking for additional manuals or things to learn from because, and I think we've lost this in society, right? Like, we don't try to go back and learn from history anymore. And frankly, it's cheesy to say, I think. Well, it's probably not because we don't say it anymore, but like if you don't go back and learn history, you're doomed to repeat it. And because humans are lazy, blind, and what did I say? Lazy, blind, and selfish? Because we are. We are. Unless you actively are working against your entropy of your soul and trying to pursue wisdom and make difficult choices and be healthy and not retort emotionally when someone's not having a good day, whether it's about you or not, because most of the time it's not about you. Plot twist. So it's just like, oh, hey, maybe they just found out that their mom has cancer and like they're serving you Starbucks, but they have a real bad attitude. Your question should be approached with curiosity. And you go, hey, are you okay? Because it's not about you. And this is literally, and I think Pascal, and I love Pascal, I've talked about him a dozen times, and I'm talking about him a dozen more. Like, Pascal talks about this, which is we're so selfish. We're so vain to think that everything's about us. No, the woman serving you Starbucks is not upset at you. They just had some bad news, and they're trying to do their day job so they don't get fired, which is not doing a great job in this hypothetical, but they have an attitude with you. It's literally not about you 98% of the time. So, like, you're not that important, bucko. Anyway, I would make a very good Sith.
Yep. No, I think you're absolutely right. There's always an exception to not to everything. There's exceptions to some things, but I think you're right. Not everything is about you. Now, there's shitty baristas who act like complete jackasses, and the flip side of that coin is, irrespective of your grandmama with her cancer, doesn't give you the right to talk to people like garbage just because you're going through something.
Yeah. Emotional regulation.
Salt, take a day off. Take a day off if grandma's so important. Or get me my freaking flat white and stop bitching. There's two sides to this. And I want to stress that there's not two sides to every story. That gets thrown around a lot, and no, it's not. Sometimes people are just assholes. But you can react to this barista, whether it's grandma or a stick up her ass, you can react to it by not letting that feed into your own ego either.
Yeah.
You don't have to put her in her place or talk to the manager or anything. You just be like, all right, whatever. Give me my coffee. I'm gone. I'll never see you again.
Right.
And you always have the opportunity not to react in kind.
You don't have to engage emotionally. You just don't.
Yes.
People can invite you into their drama or they can invite you into their bad day and you go, that seems like a lot more. That seems more costly to me than the $15 Starbucks drink I just bought. So I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with the no on that one. People don't understand this. I don't know where I learned it, but I learned it at some point of just like someone can be inviting you into drama and you can go, no, and just walk away. You just walk away. You just go, I'm not going to do this. Nope.
Yep.
I'm just not going to engage. See ya.
And you're gone.
Yeah. Just like Bane did. He's like, I need to go back and figure out the graveyard I don't know. I don't remember what it was called. Some planet where the Sith were buried, and so the presumption is that there's a bunch of Dark Lord power there, and he's going to tap into it, but his superiors wouldn't let him because they're like, it's gone. The Dark Lord power has already been taken millennia ago. Ba 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 ba. And he's like, nah, there's something here, because he was doing the reading, going back and learning from history instead of doomed to repeat it, and the Sith being unable to continue in power.
And he decides that they all must die, like a true Sith.
Like a
very, very, like, all right, y'all suck, and you're all going to die, and then I'm going to start over.
Originally, my friend Matt, who recommended this book, told me that he kind of like gave me a very brief overview about the Rule of Two, but I think I made some broad stroke assumptions in my own mind about the Rule of Two, where I thought it was a collection of sets of twos where there's the master and the apprentice scattered throughout the galaxy, which I think would also be, I mean, it's a little bit like fiefdoms at that point where you have to work with additional Sith still to achieve your goals, potentially. But then it's a lot more chaos. And so I think I just filled in a bunch of blanks. But now having read it, it's different. It's just the master and the apprentice and this tension between power.
Well, this is a trilogy. So the second book in the series is called The Rule of Two. So apparently Mr. Bane achieved something. I don't know. I haven't read the book. And like I said, I have no idea about Star Wars canon.
Yeah, neither do
What I read here and there about this book, at first it wasn't considered canon, and then it was, and it's been adopted as canon by whoever is in charge of adopting.
Because he's still alive.
Yeah,
Would be my guess.
Whoever is in charge of adopting works of a franchise into the franchise's canon. It was a comicbook.com or comics.com. It was some kind of blog, but it looked pretty official. It wasn't like Jonathan's blog on the side or Slava's blog.
Right.
On something else. It looked like an official comic-related blog. This was 2012. It said that Bane's story, as written by Drew K here, has been adopted as canon. If memory serves me right, which is now 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess to finish off this little dialogue on it, I really liked him going back to the archives, how he learned quickly. And again, this is part of the pace of the book, and I said before we started recording that Drew K writes this book as he would have written a scenario for a video game. I'm convinced that's why the book has the pace that it has. He learns. I like that he learns, and because of the pace, he learns very quickly, and he uses what he learns effectively.
100%.
So I like that.
100%.
And I also made the connection to Quoth when I was listening to it. I'm like, interesting. Or just like Quoth, like spending a lot of times in the academy, which for these Sith, it was frowned upon because that's old fuddy-duddy Sith. We don't need to learn anything from them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something about ancient knowledge, though. Like, don't repeat the past if you don't have to. You don't have to learn every lesson by experience. You really don't. That's literally a choice of your own ignorance, your own pride stopping you. And I've had this conversation with people a dozen times where it's like, because I'm realizing it constantly in my life, that you can either go and learn something from a mentor or a coach or, frankly, just people who are ahead of you and go, okay, what is that person doing that I'm not doing because they're one step ahead of me? And you can do some just basic critical thinking. And I've had to do this in jobs before where it's like, look, I'm doing more work than this other person and it's higher quality. But they have a better title and better pay. And I have to sit down and go, okay, calm down, take a step back. What are they doing that you're not doing? And it's like, oh, they're doing this thing and they're doing this thing. But I think those things are dumb. And you go, exactly. And this is like a conversation I have with myself. Exactly. And that's why you don't have the title or the raise. And it's like, really? It's that simple? It's like, yep. So you have to choose. Are you going to get over your pride and get over yourself? Or are you going to sit here and I do more work than them, which is fine if it's true. It's irrelevant.
And it could be true, but...
Right, it could be true, but
whatever.
It doesn't matter if the powers that be want to see those two skills, then if you're not doing them, then yeah, you don't get the title raise, and you don't get the pay raise. That's it. Get over yourself. And this is a conversation I have with myself all the time. It's like, well, I want to lose weight. Like, all right, fine, cool. Are you going to change your diet? Well, no. Okay, then you don't really want to lose weight. Are you going to exercise more?
Nope.
I mean, okay, then you're not, and you just got to be starkly honest with yourself, and it's okay. Like, you can know something's good for you and still choose to go, I don't really want to. It's
Right.
fine.
That's exactly right.
Bring me home here. Bring me back.
Bring us home.
I side quest.
So, side quest over. Darth Bane, now that he has this knowledge, or knowledge of the knowledge, right? He decides to leave the Brotherhood. Well, first he kicks the ever-loving daylights out of the guy who kicked the ever-living daylights out of him, weeks before.
Sarlacc or Cyron or
Cyron, something like that.
Sirach.
Sirach, right.
Sirach,
and then he leaves to go
grave hunting
to the Valley of the Bones, Valley of the Dead, the equivalent of that, finds nothing, decides that he has to go to a distant planet where there's a Sith temple, gets there, and absorbs the knowledge from a hologram.
Revan. We got to pause on Revan for a minute, because Revan, I texted my buddy Matt. Did you? Wait, sorry, finish. Sorry.
No, let me finish, and then we'll jump back to him.
Okay.
So he does that. He gets the knowledge from Revan, and then at this point, both Khan and Githany are trying to get him to join them, and maybe if he doesn't, we'll kill them. And then his former master sent to kill him. And all this, he even uses all this to set up the Brotherhood. That's what I was going to say. And ended there, and we can go back to Revan now.
Yeah, so Revan actually goes on to explain the rule of two, where there's one master and one apprentice, and that would allow the Sith to stop infighting and to concentrate on only destroying the Jedi and conquering the galaxy. Quick side quest, and then I want to get back to Revan. Did you see the article? It was probably a month ago, where the Taliban has become frustrated about working
Yes.
desk jobs.
Yes.
So the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan and left a bunch of stuff there. It was a big political hullabaloo. So the Taliban finally get what they've always been fighting for, which is their country back, and all right, good for you, And then now they've been tweeting and complaining that they have to work desk jobs. They can't afford rent in their own cities, and they have to commute in. And then one guy was like, I didn't get paid because I didn't show up to work.
Dude,
and I'm just like, you guys, this is what we've been living for decades.
No, the fact that, forget the fact that he complained about not getting paid for not working. The fact that there's already a bureaucracy within the Taliban that flagged him for not working and docked his pay is just, it's like an SNL skit. This is like, forget SNL, this is Monty Python level.
Monty Python,
stupidity,
yeah. Yes.
Like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They finally got, it's just so funny. And so I think about, we're going to conquer the galaxy. So, okay, the Sith finally defeat the Jedi. Now what? Now they're going to run, they have to also run, you have to run everything. And now it'd be more of a dictatorship. But come on, man. And we like the story of the power struggle, so I'm not going to diminish that. But it's just funny, like they finally got what they wanted, and they're like, actually, it was a lot easier when we were just on jihad or whatever.
Right, like Lord Bane, I need you to sign these procurement forms for.
Did you get those
these
TPS reports done before we can't send these guys off on a mission unless you signed the paperwork? Yeah. Just crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Revan.
We're only allotted 14,000 gallons of whatever per month. Like, we exceeded that, Darth Bane.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
we only get 14,000
chokes
gallons
him with the force. Like,
yeah, there you go.
You gotta stop killing your secretaries, Darth Bane.
They don't want the power enough.
Yeah.
They don't want the power enough.
Oh, goodness.
So Revan,
yes.
so Bane goes to Korriban, he left Korriban and went to the planet Lahone, and he did a search and he finds this holocron of Darth Revan, and Revan tells Bane that there's too many Sith, and it's almost like he's having, even though it's this pre-recorded thing, it's almost like he's having this conversation with, past Revan, who tells him the rule of two, where there's one master, there's one apprentice, it stops the infighting and concentrates on destroying the Jedi and conquering the galaxy. Well, Bane takes all this to heart to the point where he's like reciting these things back to himself just so that he retains it. And he's also like not eating or drinking, which is something that they note. And so he travels back to the Brotherhood school and starts to unravel his whole scheme to make the rule of two a thing again, and then he'll be Darth Bane. But there's also, and we briefly alluded to this earlier, they removed the titles from the Sith to be Darth anything, and they were just Dark Ones or Dark Lords or whatever. So he's bringing it back. He's going all vintage and bringing back the legacy of Darth everything. And similar to you, I don't really know enough about Star Wars to know where this falls timeline-wise, but my friend Matt has Revan tattooed on his arm, and I thought it was interesting that there's a lot of information about Revan in this book, and it makes you ask questions. It made me ask questions. We went, okay, Revan has become the oracle or the wise old man guide in this book to Bane to bring him back to the path, to set him straight. And it's just interesting because now I want to know about Revan and go, okay, well, where did this all start? I also want to know how the trilogy ends, which is good, and you've touched on it as well, where it's like the pacing was phenomenal. There was no dull points. Matt said, though, there's a few moments of pacing issues, I think, in book 2 and then book 3, but he said they don't last long, which is good. But it's a fun, fast-paced... This was the equivalent to me of like a good quality action movie. There's enough plot to keep you interested. There's enough action. There's enough intrigue. Right. But it's not too... I don't know if you ever watched Gray Man on Netflix.
No. I don't have Netflix.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm Apple TV and Hulu.
Okay. So Gray Man is like if you and I went out today to shoot an action movie and we had a $3 million budget and we already had the location secured, that would be the action movie. There's like no plot. It's just like, I have to go get this item. Why? It doesn't matter. I just have to go get it because of previous boss set me up, and now I've got to out him and blow up things, and then they're going to release the Hound who's going to come and get him. It's your classic, like, there's no depth here. It's explosions, but not in a fun, like, it wasn't not fun, but it wasn't as fun as the trailer makes it out to be. So,
gotcha.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good movies that don't do that, and that's okay. Whatever. If you enjoy a movie, you enjoy a movie. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. But there are some movies that might necessarily not win an Oscar, but they're paced so well. There's no fluff. There's no 20-minute expositions. There's no... I guess fluff is the only word that comes to mind. No?
Right.
I'm trying to think of the movie that came to mind like 30 seconds ago, and now I forgot it.
That's fine. You brought something up off screen here that you didn't really like the Deus Ex Machina at the back end of the book. So
no, I didn't.
Bane defeats the Sith, and I thought Githany was going to be his number 2. That didn't happen. So, like, run us through the Deus Ex Machina. Well, first, tell the audience what Deus Ex Machina is.
Deus Ex Machina is God in the Machine, or God from the Machine, I think roughly translated, and it's become an expression when something happens in a movie or a story where the guy that is fighting something, needs to get away from something, and he does it in such a miraculous way that it defeats, even if you suspend all believability or suspend all logic for the sake of the story because it's in a different world, different rules apply, and if you suspend that, even for the context of the world that the people created that you're watching a movie or reading a book, even for that setting, it's just nonsensical. It's almost too easy. So that briefly is Deus Ex Machina. So after Githany dies, which was a surprise to me, and I was like, oh, cool. All right, so this sets up Bane to find another apprentice. And wow, Bane's going to kill all of them, actually. And then I was like, but see, all of them die, and he's the only one left. So I was like, that kind of sucks. But I'm glad Githany is dead. Not because I had anything against her, but because that's a good plot twist. That's a decent thing. It sets up Bane for more
I didn't
intrigue,
expect that either.
More adventure. He has to do more stuff now. And then as he's walking back to his ship, having killed everybody and a bunch of Jedi, by everybody I mean all the Sith there, and a bunch of Jedi, including like a Jedi Master, he's walking and he finds a little girl who uses the Force to like kill a couple of guys, and I forget why, because something happens and she gets mad. Their spaceship crashes, and out of anger, she kills like 2 people or 2 things, whatever the hell it was. Was it like an animal or people that she killed? She killed 2 Jedi. She killed 2 Jedi, right?
Yeah, Jedi scouts in a fit of anger.
Right. There you go. So she kills 2 scouts in a fit of anger, and as Bane walking up, he sees the carnage of the crash. He sees this little girl crying and holding her stepbrother or whoever, and then sees 2 Jedi killed, and he's like, puts 2 and 2 together. Oh, this could be my apprentice. And she's like, yes, I'll be your apprentice. Teach me your ways, Dark Lord. And I was like, okay, great. And I still liked it. I want to read the trilogy now, just like you. I'm interested.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was a letdown. It was, even if it ended quickly, I wanted it to be more of a cliffhanger. If I'm being quite honestly, leave it as a cliffhanger. Like, have him just like walking away towards the ship. Then in the prologue in the second book, do a little bit of an elaborate story of how he gets this girl. Maybe he rescues her and he kills the Jedi, but she helps him because the Jedi kind of outnumber him, and then she kills a bunch of them with the power, and he's like, oh, little girl, come with me.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
I'm
honestly...
not Drew. I've never written a book, but
sure.
I have the right to critique the crap I'm reading. This is what the podcast is about, partly, just discussing it.
Well, that's honestly how I felt about that moment where after you said it, I was like, yeah, okay. Because it's like 2 Jedi scouts. Okay, well, if they're Jedi at all, like being defeated by a little girl seems like, meh, okay, all right. Like, I mean, even if she uses a blaster or something like that, like something else where you killed my brothers, I'm going to get back at you, or he's in a fight with them and she helps, Yeah, something like that seems a little more believable than, oh, she also has so much power that she could kill people who are 2 Jedis.
Yeah. If that was an easy ending after an unbelievably complex and intense fight with the Sith, I would have given him that and saying, okay, this is a little bit of here's a cookie for what you've done here. But at the end of the day, he just tricks these selfish little bastards to destroy themselves, walks away from the explosion, and then finds the girl who can kill people with her mind.
It's probably a due date. Yeah, I mean, if I were to guess, it's probably like due date came up, didn't have the ending he wanted. Because, like, let's give credit. I mean, the guy's done a lot of work that millions of people have enjoyed. So, he was on deadline. That's the way that I run the scenario where it's like, all right, he was on deadline. He had to get something in because they were like, we've got to ship this book. And so it's just like, all right, this works. It's not great, but it works,
Yeah. And listen, again, I would recommend the book.
Yeah,
I enjoyed reading the book. Me too. Just because, and I still want to read the next book and the one after that.
Right.
Just because I didn't like the ending doesn't mean
you still want to know what happens.
Lost and that's
right.
it.
Yeah. You're not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Eat the fish. Eat the full circle. Eat the fish, spit out the bones.
Yeah, very good.
A little fried zini over here.
There you go. And because I've enjoyed his other work, because he was the storyboard person or somebody important on the dark space.
The dark space. It's the new Facebook where you go to the dark space.
Hold on.
I need 10 minutes. I'm going to my dark space.
Drew.
Crap-a-da-ba-da.
Drew. Where are you, Drew? Karpyshyn. Drew Karpyshyn, a scenario game writer, BioWare. Oh, Mass Effect. That it is. That's it. Like, I have enjoyed all the Mass Effects, and I enjoy the stories, like in the games and the games. I've benefited from his work and enjoyed it greatly. So this is not like, hey, Karpyshyn, you suck now. Just
right.
Whatever happened. I think the ending could have been better, but overall, enjoyed the hell out of the book. For a guy who doesn't care about Star Wars as a whole,
right.
I was always Picard. Give me Star Trek, Next Generation, give me Picard. And I don't think purist is the right word because it sounds like I'm crawling up my own ass, and I'm not.
You're a strong hobbyist enthusiast.
Yeah, and I was really, when it came to Star Trek, I was a big fan. I watched all the Next Generation. When others started coming out, like Star Trek Voyager and the old Star Trek reruns started, popping up, I really didn't give them the time of day. So whatever. Maybe a time will come where I'll watch the other Star Trek shows too. But I never cared one bit for Star Wars. And not because I hate Star Wars or have some kind of... I wasn't like, I'm only Star Trek fan and Star Wars sucks. I wasn't part of that argument ever. Never had a dog in that fight. I just really like Picard, and I just stuck with watching all the Picard stuff. But having said all that, I was really intrigued with this world. I kind of want to know a little bit more about Star Wars. I don't know if I'll watch the movies, but I'll definitely read some more books.
Right.
Drew made this interesting.
Yes, agreed. I just pulled up the ratings on Amazon. It's a 4.8 on every book of this trilogy. Each book is a 4.8. It's actually quite fascinating to me. Each book has over 3,000 reviews. So the first book that we just read, 4,600 reviews, 5 stars, 83%. 4 stars, nice. 13%. Now, hear me out here. Second book, 4.8 rating, 82% 5 stars, 14% 4 stars. That's still 96% between the two of them. Third book, 83% 5 stars, 13% 4 stars. Still 4.8. So each book is 96% 4 to 5 star rating, primarily 5 star. That's consistency. That's huge. Like, I'm really impressed. Because we just read this book, and, you know, the people who've read the first one, there's clearly like a drop-off, at least from the ratings, of about 1,200 people. But after that, it's consistent. Over 3,300 each time. Drew's got to have something going on here if the story can be consistent and people will give it the same rating, because they got the same feeling from the first book. You know, we get the first album, and then the second album usually sucks because it doesn't have the same feel as the first album. But in this case, it looks like it does. Kind of excited. We'll probably come back around and read books 2 and 3 at some point.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at book 2 now, and it's only $9 for the audio narration. If you buy the Kindle and the audio narration, it's like $12 or something like that. $13.
Nice. Well, we'll come back to it because we've got more books to read. Yes, I can't wait. That's what we're doing next, right? I can't remember our list.
Yeah, Cradle. We're doing the Cradle. I think 1 or 2 books of the Cradle, and then I get to decide a couple books. I still have to think about what I want to discuss.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, this has been Darth Bane. We're going to have a guest episode next. We're going to bring on Matt, my friend who recommended the book, and he's going to tell us everything Star Wars. He's going to tell us all about the Star Wars.
Yep. I can't wait.
I think he's going to actually drop some nice information. What was that?
I said set your phasers to stun.
There you go. I think he's going to actually drop some fun information to us about Revan because he's got a tattoo, and he's read, I think he said, all the Star Wars books.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he's pretty deep in the intellectual property that is Star Wars. And honestly, us reading this started from kind of a little exchange between the two of us where I said, hey, I'd like you to read The Way of Kings. We're doing a podcast on it. I think you'll really enjoy the world. And he's like, well, I'll read The Way of Kings if you read Path of Destruction. And I said, all right, well, we'll dive into it. Not thinking a whole lot about it, just exactly because the rant you went earlier where it's just like, I mean, Star Wars is fine, but, you know, it's not my thing. And now it's like, oh, no, I'm actually intrigued. I'd like to read the other 2 books, you know? So we'll probably get around to it.
Yep. Well, a quick little side quest here. Revan, according to Wikipedia, was created by Drew Karpyshyn, and he was a Jedi Master and became a Dark Lord of the Sith.
Aha. Yes.
So, and he is in a video game for BioWare, for which Mr. Karpyshyn worked. So, a former veteran Jedi Knight who lived during the Old Republic era, approximately 4,000 years before the Skywalker saga, the Sith Lord Raven forms a Sith empire to conquer the galaxy, contending with the Republic's armies, only to be betrayed and left for dead by Darth Malak, and subsequently captured by Jedi, who erase Raven's memory and replace them with a false identity.
Huh. That sounds interesting.
As part of the Jedi's plan to have Raven rejoin their ranks and help defeat Malak and his empire. Yeah, that's the video game synopsis, though. That's not... I don't know how that relates to actual lore.
I was going to ask if that was a book series.
That's from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And again, I'm only basing this on Wikipedia, which is not always accurate. But when I hit Darth Raven's hyperlink from the book, it took me to this page. I'm sure the video game took some information, some context from the books too, or vice versa.
Interesting.
Yep. But this Wikipedia entry is the one for the video game, so I don't know how much of it is actually related to the book, but probably a little bit.
Yeah, chicken and the egg.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
Cool.
Jonathan,
Darth Bane.
Darth Bane. God bless him. Sith bless him. Something bless him. I don't know.
Darkness overwhelmed their withered soul.
There it is.
Goodbye, good people.